Welcome to the April 14th, 2020 episode of Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And Dracologist. Good evening.
It might be morning, wherever they are, Dracologist.
It's, what do you call it, early evening?
But that's okay. That's okay.
For
We have another great episode of Reactive Consciousness, and we actually got some pretty awesome stuff that happened this week in terms of video game stuff. Without the serious stuff going on notwithstanding. But there's still some pretty awesome things going on in the video game world. Yeah, so let's try to make it a little light here. Of course, the biggest news of this week is that Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, or Episode 1, whatever you want to call it, just released.
The Midgar chapter.
Yeah.
You don't get out of Midgar.
I've seen the first, an hour of it thanks to Jesse Cox. I'm planning to watch his playthrough of it. Someone who never, only just brushed elbows with the entire game, I'm curious of it.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to playing it myself, actually.
Yeah, and I wanna say that I hope, I'm wishing the best for Square Enix on this, because it seemed to be one of their biggest magnum opus of games, so they don't bollock it up like they did with 15. They put everything in the front end, everything later that game was kind of meh.
I don't know. 15 ended up being pretty darn successful. I mean, it sold really well.
It was okay, but it
of course it sold really well. I mean, Transformers 2 sold really well. I mean, FF15 is actually good, but you know what I mean. The hype, people don't pay for it after they play it.
That's true, but what I'm trying to say is that overall, most people are positive on 15.
Yeah, but the main complaint I heard about 15 was that it's reverse FF13, where 13 are like, oh, don't worry, the game opens up after the 200th hour, and in FF15 it closes up later, it becomes linear, and you're like, wait a minute.
I mean, I'd rather have it that way. I mean, to be honest, if I'd rather have an open section at the beginning of the game than later.
What I heard is from people or from game critics is to start strong, end strong.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
And everything in the middle is kind of become a blur.
Sure.
So
that's just like any movie or book or anything like that. I mean, Stephen King always has a way of botching up his endings, but...
Yep. my favorite is The Stand. We just don't know what to do. Good. Something else just comes in and does it.
Everything's good, and then a literal Deus Ex Machina happens.
Yeah, it's wait, what?
A literal Deus Ex Machina happens.
Speaking of horror books, I did start kind of dip into listening to H.P. Lovecraft audiobooks. So.
Oh, nice. Well, his endings are good, but they're also all the same.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And then I went crazy. Yeah, oh my god. Yeah. I mean, there are some variations, but it's usually in that direction.
Not all of them. Most of them just what the hell was that?
Well, that's true. Yeah, From Beyond was, what the hell was that? And then it just kind of ends.
Old-timey racism, and then what?
Yeah.
I actually listened to it, and it's not as prevalent as people say it, but I didn't listen to...
Yeah, it's not necessarily as prevalent, but when it hits hard.
I know it's prevalent in Reanimator and in... in Innsmouth, the Shadow Warrior Innsmouth.
Well, the whole concept of the Innsmouth look, but there's also Rats in the Walls, where it's not racism toward a group, but there's a name.
Well, the funny thing is, that is the first story in the H.P. Lovecraft book that I picked up, so it was literally the first story that I read by him.
Oh, okay, because with Lovecraft... So
I was all right, I read out there, huh?
I had the Barnes & Noble collection, so I read his stories in order, so I read the first one first, with the one when he wrote when he was a kid, where it ends with screaming in italics. It turns out he was a man in italics. It's hilarious.
So, Final Fantasy Remake.
Oh yeah, what's that? Yeah.
Sorry about the derailing.
But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, just every single Final Fantasy thing that I've ever encountered, most people are very positive on it when it first comes out. Who knows what they'll say in about a year? But I am in probably the minority opinion that like Midgar is the best part of Final Fantasy VII.
Well, that's
so,
usually
like,
what I see, though. I like whenever I see like I mean I'm not often in conversations of what's your favorite part in Final Fantasy VII, but usually I hear people say Midgar is like where it's at.
Yeah, the first disc is great. I love all of Midgar, and then when you leave Midgar, it like loses something for me because I like that.
Well, the town feels like an actual town. It feels alive. And when you leave, it's like an open world. There's a field. And you're like, okay, well, it doesn't have personality because it's a field. You know, it can't. That's not even the game's fault. Like, just what are you going to do?
For a JRPG, Midgar was a very unusual, location. It was a very unusual setting.
Yeah, FF6 started changing impressive. That up, but FF7 went full steampunk.
Yeah. Well, cyberpunk almost too.
That's
like
true.
It has some like cyberpunk elements.
It does.
Yeah, I would call it cyberpunk, like sort of magic punk, I would call it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like a combo. It's like some weird
techno magic.
Yeah, exactly. But I really like the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, then it falls off a cliff for me. So
what I would heard like people say like, "Ooh, this like Midgard is like, oh holy shit, this is really good," and then like the game goes, "Hey, I have the whole world as well."
That's the whole thing. Like now, go wandering around. It's like I know that wandering is fun, but like Midgar again feels like
it's a great setting.
Well, yeah, but what I mean is like the town itself kind of has a personality, and then it's like. Well, now you got the world map, and you're a little dude on this giant green field. Like I said earlier, it's like, well, okay.
Exactly.
I think it's called the Fallout issue. That like the Bethesda Fallout is so it's like spreading yourself thin without us quote without any kind of nice chunky mouthfuls.
Yeah, and not only that, but like you go to dungeons and they're cool, but like Midgar is like a world in and of itself. And it's not a dungeon, although there are fights in it sometimes.
I wish the entire game took place in Midgar. Like there's.
Well, good news. I got good news for you.
I have an entire part that is all Midgar, but notwithstanding, like I do want to check this out eventually. I'm so backlogged in other things right now that I might as well wait until the full game comes out. I guess this is just one of those things.
See you in 2027.
Exactly. But
by the time the full game comes out, you're gonna have to break out the old PS4 and play
it. Well, the thing is, the battle system seems to be a lot of fun. Apparently, there's some weird story shenanigans at the end of this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into what they are because they're very spoilery. But the one big complaint I did see, to be fair, from only one person about the game is there are some story shenanigans that may end up having major repercussions that veterans of the PS1 game are like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it going to build up Half-Life Alyx?
I don't know because I can't afford that fucking game. But like,
I don't know what happens at the end of that.
Yeah, but there's gonna be what I mean is like the remake is obviously not going to be literally the same as the PS1 game, but apparently there are some story changes that are a big deal.
Yeah, apparently very Kingdom Hearts-esque, from what I understand, whatever the hell that's supposed to be.
Well, no, you could apparently you can understand what the hell's going on in FF7 Remake. It's just different. Kingdom Hearts, nobody understands. I question whether the writer understands it.
Well, Nomura.
Yeah, thank you. His name was escaping me. Yeah.
Lots of zippers that don't belong there. Yeah,
that is the least confusing thing about the game.
Belts and zippers. This is how you design in Japan.
This is how you design a Michael Jackson 80s music video.
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy to like. I guess I'm pretty happy.
Michael Jackson would love that game.
You would.
Yeah. I can't believe they ripped off my look, except they're not wearing all black leather.
But yeah, I'm happy. I do want to play it. I'm kind of like resisting the hype to play it because I know against my better judgment that it's like it'll be fine. Like if I wait on it, and also in about a year the PC version is going to release. So
fair enough.
Like apparently that's what the major rumor going around is, and I think that's credible because it does say timed exclusive on the cover.
Okay.
So I mean I feel like that's realistic.
Honestly, if people get like if it holds up on the air and I get a better rig, I might just go and try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to play it, it might be on the next Xbox because I might start forgoing PC stuff.
You know, it'd be the greatest irony if Nintendo got it, if it was like on the Switch, just because of
I wouldn't want to play it on there.
No, it would be like no, that would be a fucking disaster of a playthrough on the fucking Switch. But like, it would just be an amusing turnaround, like Nintendo lost Final Fantasy to Sony with FF7.
Yeah, that is a good idea. Good thought.
Nintendo PlayStation, go fuck yourself. We're taking our ball and going home.
$300,000, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Time to get out of the emulators, boys.
Yeah. Well, moving on from that, another big release, if you can call it big. It's big for me.
Yeah, it's really not a big release, but the people who care about it are very happy.
So I'm very happy to get in on this because apparently this is pretty rare right now, pretty hard to come by because of probably the COVID stuff going on. But I do have.
It's literally one disaster after another interfering with this fucking game.
Oh yeah, seriously, it's kind of like that Hunt movie or whatever that like it's just there were complaints by the president, so it didn't release, and then it was right about to release, and the COVID stuff happened, so it went straight to streaming.
Jesus.
It's just like, man, that movie got fucked.
Yeah.
But Disaster Report 4, which happened during two disasters.
Yep.
Jesus.
That game is fucking cursed.
Yeah, but Disaster Report 4, I was lucky enough to have reserved it a long time ago, so therefore I was able to get a physical PS4 copy. I am very happy because you cannot find one.
Yeah, see, I didn't
anywhere.
know about this, but because I thought it was a NISA exclusive, and the only PS4 version they had of that was the limited edition,
sure.
which came with a big medical crate thing that I don't care about, and I'm not getting this. I didn't realize it was available anywhere else, so people were like, "Oh, it's getting hard to find," but here are a couple of links of some stores that have it. I was like, "There's a standard," so I ordered my copy today. So I'm
good
pretty,
for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. Apparently, you can order it in a couple of stores online, but it's kind of sketchy.
Amazon got cleaned out. Amazon got cleaned out really quick.
I don't know what it's going to be like by the time the podcast goes up, but I did see that GameStop and the store I never heard about, but had a link I followed, Bull Moose, had some copies.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, never heard of it, but I ordered that and they deliver. So you know what, we're cool.
Yeah, I was. What were you about to say, Dracologist?
I was just about to ask that. Can you tell me a little short in what is this game about?
Have you ever heard of Raw Danger or Disaster Report?
Nothing.
Okay.
I only heard about the game, the title.
Okay.
I didn't know there was already 4 about it, but please do tell them about a few words.
Yeah, so Disaster Report was a series that was made by IREM. It was their big tentpole series before they folded. They were always kind of a little weird and janky, but fun. Also have a fun premise. Well, fun is relative, I guess. An
interesting premise. Arguably unique premise.
Yeah, each game happens during a disaster, whether it be like a tsunami, an earthquake, or whatever. Happens during a disaster. Something that really bad happens to the Japanese city that you're in. Usually, I don't think it's always Tokyo. I don't think it's always the same location. But what the idea is that you're supposed to find your way through it, survive, but also do side quests. Help other people out.
You're dealing with the aftermath of a natural disaster. There's no aliens or anything. It's relatively realistic.
Yeah, I wanted to say there's 2 games I remember. There was one that had sort of this climbing mechanically with you had to play Grandmother's Footstep with a gun with the other survivors. I don't remember the name, but it involved a lot of climbing and holding people at gunpoint. And there was that other game which came out of Japan, which was similar, but that had aliens, which was City Covered in Shadow, or what was it called?
I don't know that
I
one.
never heard of it.
It's
Yeah, I know
basically
there
that
was a Wii
all
game.
all the giant monsters basically having one big bad punch up in the like 5 different, like from Godzilla to fucking Neon Genesis Evangelion Max.
Gotcha. Well, this series was the first 2 happened on the PS2. The first one was called Disaster Report here, and the second one was called Raw Danger because it was released by a different company. I think the second one was released by Agitech or Agetech, whatever. And then the first one, I forget who released that. But the third one never came out here. It was a PSP exclusive and Japan exclusive. But this game is most famous for its story in that it was gold and ready to go. Like Disaster Report 4 was going to come out for the PS3 in Japan the week that the Fukushima tsunami happened.
Yeah, and the game and the disaster in this game is a tsunami. So they're like, well, that's in poor taste. We can't release that right now. And the game basically died and killed the company.
Yeah, so Irem died. One of the really awesome arcade companies going way back to the early maybe even late 70s.
By the way, I found it. It's called The City Shrouded in Shadow.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. This game got killed by the Fukushima disaster. Essentially, the whole company went out of business. And luckily, they saved the code, and we're like, okay, 10 years later, they remade the game, and were able to release it. So that's what we got. So we got it for PS4, so it has better graphics than it used to. Obviously, they must have added stuff to it. They made a Switch version, and they also added a VR mode for the PS4 mode. Or for the PS4 version, rather. So I'm really happy to get this. Obviously, it's going to probably be the best game in the series, just because of its scope.
Also, I just noticed a VR option.
Yeah. Really. Huh. Yeah. You can check it out here. So, I'm going to show it on my webcam here.
Right.
But I'm excited for it, and so is Lotus here.
So a little bit about, I wanted to ask if you could tell me about the gameplay. Is it more like on a JRPG, so you run about, pick up items, talk to people, or more like a puzzle game?
It kind of has it's a platforming game combined with I guess you run little side missions for people and things like that too. So there are times in which you have to traverse areas that are very treacherous. Yeah. Go into buildings that are collapsing, things are like that. Traverse across areas that are getting flooded, places that are on fire, things like that. So there is a heavy platforming element to it, but there is a heavy social component to it too. You interact with townspeople and officials and things like that, and other people in order to get through it. And I think it has multiple endings depending on what you do for people in it, that kind of thing. So I'm pretty damn excited about this, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet. It just came out.
Yeah, it came out like less than
Thursday?
a week ago.
Yeah, I was happy because I'm in the process of transitioning to my new home that I purchased, and Amazon, because this was part of an older order where the other half got fulfilled, it was actually Shenmue 3.
Wow.
I couldn't change the address on the order, but luckily I have like a bridge over period between my my apartment and the new house. So luckily it got delivered to my apartment, but we still hold the lease there until the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to pick this up, thankfully, so I was happy about that. But yeah, it's just a cool story, and it's worth owning the game for the story behind it alone.
The history.
Yeah, exactly, and the pains that the company went through in order to release it. I mean, it doesn't even have IREM on it anywhere.
Wow.
At this point, it has NIS and Granzilla, which is Granzilla is the company I believe that owns the IPs to the IREM games at this point. I think they're the ones who license out the old arcade games to the Arcade Archives people, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But IREM is of course the company that made is most famous for making R-Type. So I'm just really excited that this is out, and this is a part of gaming history. Moving on from that, this was kind of out of nowhere today, but Resident Evil 4 remake is apparently happening.
Come on.
This is.
I was watching one of our basically our channel keepers. Whatever you call it, the channel owners Seth Horvan play Resident Evil 3 remake, and I mentioned wouldn't be people have their didn't Resident Evil 4 was remade once, but it was apparently a remastering.
It was just remastered. It was it was upscaled and everything
to
for
HD.
the PS4, the Xbox One, PC.
People said that please put in more zombie suplexing options.
But I mean, really, Resident Evil 4 is, as far as I know, the first over-the-shoulder shooter. It basically pioneered a genre, or at least the style of gameplay it had. But
everything else trailed after that.
Yeah, but it still played with third-person tank controls. You still didn't have free control of the camera. Resident Evil 2 and 3 being remade to over-the-shoulder, apparently those games are really good, but I still felt a little weird, but they were designed with fixed camera angles. This will be a whole different experience. Resident Evil 4, though, if you remaster that game, that will feel like the source material, but made better. Kind of like the GameCube Resident Evil 1 remake. It plays like the PS1 game, but everything about it is better. So 4 is something I'm actually particularly excited about.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that what we think of when we think of modern Resident Evils came from this game, but what you really the feeling is actually what you got from 5. The way that controls 5 controls is actually the way you thought 4 controlled.
Yeah, you can't Vice, you mentioned this on chat, but in 4 you can't move while aiming. It's one of those things that's just how the game played back then. Not a big deal. I don't care, but going back yeah. It's funny because I'm usually very slow at keeping up with games. I played Yakuza Dead Souls. You couldn't move while aiming in that game either. I was whatever. And then I remember talking about Dead Rising. I might want to play Dead Rising at one point. And I think you had said, that game's pretty rough because you can't move while you're aiming. And I was oh, whatever. That's just what I'm used to.
Yeah, but nowadays that every game plays it's sorely missed.
Yeah, if you play anything else, Uncharted or whatever, even fucking Ride to Hell, that legendary piece of crap, you can move while aiming.
Any third-person action game has the controls of Resident Evil 5 or Gears of War or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, so going back to 4 will feel weird. Honestly, for me, I bet you when I play 4, I'll get used to the stick and move pretty quickly. What's going to really throw me is the camera. I'm going to have to center it behind myself or do a 180 turn or whatever. I can't just right-stick the camera.
I mean, you could probably count on them to also rework the levels and make them a little bit roomier with the larger hordes because, the whole game is balanced around the fact that you have to do that stick and move kind of
that's a good point.
movement.
That's a good point.
So they're probably going to redesign the whole game.
And that would be great because we were talking about Midgar is the most fun part about Final Fantasy VII. For me.
The introduction village.
Oh, are you kidding me? Yeah, I mean, I like the castle, fine, but the village just kills, and the islands, the island at the end just kind of felt tacked on. It's and here's more. All right, I guess the regenerators kicked ass, but the island in general, whatever.
Listen to Ashley's whining at you in HD.
That's not even that big of a deal. Everybody and their mother just bitches about Ashley. She's not a big deal.
Actually, she's not a big deal because people said, like, as it was told, like, you can put it in the nearest trash bin. And
that is exactly what I was going to say. Yep, that is exactly it. Enter room. Wait here. Clear the entire room. Come on out.
Yeah, I never really had a problem with her dying on me, to be honest.
Yeah, tell her to hide, and like she won't get grabbed by the first guy.
She stays out of the way most of the time.
She's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm just excited because, this will come right in line with it, but of course a little bit of pang of like regret or like I don't know how to say it, but like I wish that Code Veronica was coming next.
Code Veronica is a very glaring omission. It's like the next game.
I mean, it was the first Resident Evil 4, kind of like how we were talking about.
It was the first Resident Evil 3.
Doom 64, was the original Doom 3. It's the same kind of thing.
Well, Code Veronica was intended to be Resident Evil 3, and Resident Evil 3 was the Gaiden game.
Yeah,
that's why, like...
And that's how it should have happened, honestly.
Like, have you played either game recently?
Code Veronica was the first Resident Evil game that I ever beat, so, no, I played, the original version of Resident Evil 3.
That's what I mean.
Recently, yeah.
Have you played either recently?
Not for, 3 years.
Because, Code Veronica, you can't quick turn. You still have to tap the button to climb upstairs. You can't freely move up and down stairs. But in Resident Evil 3, you could, even though it was on PS1, and Code Veronica was on Dreamcast. It came out later, but you could tell it was designed first.
You know what? They should have just remade Dino Crisis 3. I mean, really.
Dino Crisis 3 is the one game in that series that,
that needs a remake.
Dino Crisis 1, it's way more boring than you remember, but it's playable, but nobody likes 3. Nobody.
2 is awesome. 2's a great
I finally played 2. 2 is awesome.
2's a secret, awesome game that nobody's ever played.
What, Dracologist?
I only heard about Dino Crisis 3. I know that it's dinosaurs in space station.
Oh no, it gets better. They're not dinosaurs. They're weird genetic freaks.
They're like mutants.
I know that the dinosaurs in quotation marks, but I don't get is is it a bad game or is it a good or is it
it's terrible.
Normal?
It's terrible. Yeah, it has bad camera controls. It has bad controls in general. It's poorly paced. It has nothing to do with the rest of the series.
Is it as bad as Blue Stinger?
Blue Stinger has its own charm. There are some people that love Blue Stinger. Yeah.
I got to do my research before I play whatever the hell Illbleed.
Well, Illbleed is the second one, so you want to play Blue Stinger.
That's what I'm saying. I need to do my research before I play Illbleed.
I've seen a single walkthrough of Illbleed. It is weird.
Yeah,
I saw Vice play a little bit of it. What? What is happening?
I think I lost it when there is a part where you big spoiler, but you have to wooden sculptures or whatever walking around, and there is one scene I think I lost it. What the hell I was looking at?
There is a psycho version of Woody from Toy Story in it.
You know what? You got my attention.
Yeah.
You are a sad, strange little man.
Yes, sucking down Darjeeling. But yeah, I'm excited for Resident Evil 4 remake. Maybe this opens the doors for remake.
Yeah, I hope they remake Resident Evil 7. Wouldn't that be cool?
Or remake Resident Evil 1.
This is again. Ouroboros eating its own larynx.
Speaking of Ouroboros, that's Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
Yes, please don't. We don't want to see more in this giant Chris Redfield.
The funny thing is, all of the big news from this week is based off of old shit.
Yeah. Speaking of which, keep it coming.
Yeah, exactly.
When are we going to remake Kiss Psycho Circus?
You bring that up a lot. It's never happening, dude. It's I'd be amazed if it went near the GOG.
How about Heavy Metal Fact 2? Or whatever.
I don't know what that is.
Oh,
I do.
It's a heavy... remember the movie Heavy Metal? You ever hear that?
Oh, there's actually a video game connected to that?
So there is a movie
Somewhat.
based off of the second movie, Heavy Metal 2000. That is a sequel to Heavy Metal 2000, but
I
it's
didn't even
terrible.
know that there was a Heavy Metal 2000.
Oh yeah. So the way that it goes is that was it Peter or it was Eastman and Laird made Ninja Turtles, right? I know
Yeah,
you're wondering
yeah.
where the fuck I'm going with this. So Eastman, after being involved with Ninja Turtles, ended up owning the magazine Heavy Metal, which is a underground like adult comic magazine, essentially.
Yeah.
And back in the early 80s, there was a movie based off of the various stories, like an anthology based off of various stories in it. In fact, one of the stories was kind of the inspiration for Fifth Element. So anyway, it was a big deal back in the day. It's kind of always been in the back of people's consciousness. Well, when he took it over, he was also married to a porn star at the time named Julie Strain. And so he was just like, okay, well, we're going to make another Heavy Metal movie and base it off of a character that is modeled after her.
Wow.
Yes, you can't make this shit up. The Ninja Turtle guy married a porn star and then put her in his own movie about her, and then made a video game about her.
Well,
and then broke up with her.
What is the expression that damn, they're like, this is gonna drive me freaking
Kevin
crazy.
Eastman.
I can't think of the expression. It's like you, I guess for writing, you write what you know or something.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah. So the first Heavy Metal movie was an anthology, so there's all kinds of stuff in it, and it has some really cool heavy metal from the early 80s in it, the actual music.
Yeah.
And some of the animation is fantastic and beautiful, and some of it is god awful and garbage.
Yeah.
It's a true anthology piece, and it's held together with a framed story or whatever.
Yeah, there's that green orb that goes everywhere.
Exactly. And the Heavy Metal 2000 ditches the anthology aspects and makes it just one big nude epic.
One big my wife movie.
Yeah, but it's even funnier considering if you know all of this and you watch it and you're she is naked a lot and you want me to see her naked a lot. It's really kind of weird.
It's a slightly cheekier Boris Vallejo, ugye?
Literally cheeky. But yeah, what's also funny is there is a South Park episode making fun of heavy metal where Kenny has been getting high, a bunch of people from South Park have been getting high and going to Boobopolis, which is a total
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, and that basically is heavy metal.
It is heavy metal. It 100% is, and everything is made out of boobs. It's hilarious.
Yeah. It's not even it's almost not a parody.
It's almost the same thing. It's only barely a parody.
Yeah.
That's what's so funny about it. And the funny thing is, most of the people that watched it probably had no idea what they were making fun of, or that they were making fun of anything.
I gotta say, I do like stuff like that when there's some sort of weird inside joke that the joke is that you probably don't get it. In Mystery Science Theater, they'll reference a local store in their town that over 99% literally of the people on Earth could not possibly understand that joke.
It's like you and I making fun of Foreman Mills or The Dump. Or J.G. Wentworth.
J.G. Wentworth, yeah, oh my god. It's my money and I want it now! Shut the fuck up.
For instance, Dracologist has no idea what we're talking about.
Don't worry, I zoned out a little bit at this point.
That was the correct decision.
Yes. But,
The Dump. It would be like me making fun of, even you wouldn't get this one, Vice. Me making fun of, Jim Sapalo wants to see ya in a Kia.
Oh no, I kind of know that one.
Oh,
too.
you do? Okay.
Yeah, because I lived in New Brunswick. Remember?
Oh, you're right. Okay.
I know about North Jersey, Central Jersey shit.
Fair enough.
But anyway.
Okay, Shogo remake when?
Oh, thank God. Dracologist saving this podcast.
Yeah, but so that was a thing. So anyway, moving on from that, actually something that matters. Pictures of the new PS5 DualSense controller was released, and everybody had a field day with the way it looks. It actually looks pretty cool, but it's just kind of funny the way it, like, what you could do with it if you, like, imagine.
Well, you know what I'm happy about, even though I like never use this feature, built-in mic just in the controller. Yep. You don't have to plug in that little thing.
Well, no, that's the same with the PS4 controller. That has a built-in mic.
Although, I think the problem is with the built-in mic that, like, it's basically almost like half a meter from your head, so it has to be a very sensitive mic, meaning that it will pick up every little thing in your room.
Yeah, I suppose so.
This looks really good, though. I can't accurately describe it, but it's white, which a PlayStation controller hasn't been, like, even a light color since PlayStation 1.
Yeah, unless it was like a gimmick color, like the white PS3 or something, you know.
It kind of has the look of like Miranda's suit from Mass Effect 2, if that's any kind of reference that people understand. But it's black and white, mainly white.
With black highlights.
I think it looks very comfortable. That is, like, the coolest thing about it. It looks very ergonomic. It looks a lot more ergonomic than any other PlayStation controller. Some people were making fun of the fact that it looks kind of like an Xbox controller, and that's okay, because the Xbox One controller is probably the best, like, current controller. It's probably the best, like, controller currently that any system has ever made.
Well, it's a good thing you said currently, because I was about to say N64 controller is real good.
Oh, fuck off with that.
I do want to say that, like...
Remember that code where you had to use your face in order to, like...
Yeah.
What was you saying, Dracologist?
I'm just looking at it, and the buttons seems like a little bit synced into this white casing. Like the four main, like the icon buttons.
Look pretty shallow.
So that might be a little bit of problem, I would say, because if you can, like, if it's either going to be a very sensitive little button that it's very easy to click.
Yeah,
or
I definitely agree with that.
They have to raise it out a little bit so it gives a bit of better feeling.
That's when you get your little, like, tweezers, like, pull them out.
I also believe that the D-pad isn't as good as the Xboxes, which is actually a really big, like, 180 on things, because Xbox historically has had terrible D-pads up until this current generation. They have a really good D-pad and an even better one with their Elite controller, and basically have the same one with their Xbox Series X controller. So that D-pad looks great. But the PlayStation one looks very shallow, so I'm thinking that, like, pad players for fighting games are gonna have a tough time with it. Of course you could buy your own accessories and, other stuff like that, but, like, you always hope that yeah, exactly. You always hope that the official controller can fit almost everybody's needs, but everything else looks great about it. I guess they're mainly thinking that D-pads these days on most 3D games are used mainly for menu functions, and
I was going to mention that. Yeah, you can cycle through whatever item. Yeah,
exactly.
Like
so that's probably what they're thinking of when they're going through this. Usually the big heavy lifting stuff is done by the triggers and the analog sticks. So overall I like it. I just think that the Xbox Series X controller is just going to be perfect, because it's just like the one they have right now, but a slightly tweaked, which is perfect. But it's not bad. And also going to reserve judgment until I actually feel it. Obviously. And there's apparently some haptic feedback kind of stuff going on, which is always welcome. That I like that kind of stuff. So. I'm not sure. I think it's a rechargeable thing, whereas Xbox still has the option of providing your own batteries. Yeah, exactly. Microsoft, you could still rely on AA batteries or an external charge pack. So, whereas the PlayStation 5 is internally chargeable, just like PS4s are.
Yeah, it has an accumulator battery.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on from that, let's see here. This has always kind of been hinted at ever since this game came out, but Disco Elysium Switch was confirmed to being currently worked on, and apparently full steam ahead on that one. So I'm very excited about that. This won Game of the Year from several publications. Some of them said that it was like RPG of the Year. It came out of fucking nowhere, fell in everybody's lap, and apparently everybody who played it loved it. And it's not a hugely graphically intensive game. It just only came out on PC at the time because it's a very independent release. I think it's made by mainly two dudes, something like that. And
dude and the dudette.
Two people.
Two Marxists.
Yeah, two people in what country is it? Estonia? I think it's Estonia. Yeah, made this game. Yeah. So
it's interesting, and I heard it has excellent writing.
Oh, apparently, like it has the best writing since Planescape Torment in terms of RPG writing. So that's huge praise, considering that like Planescape Torment is considered by a lot of people to be the pinnacle of RPG writing. That and like Fallout New Vegas are up there, and this is like way up there. So
where's Undertale then?
Oh, Undertale's up there too, but I would throw that into JRPGs. I mean, this is like more like a Western RPG. So, but
even though Undertale is actually Western.
Yeah, but it's a JRPG. Come on, it functions like a JRPG in terms of genre, and it's patterned after JRPGs.
Specifically Earthbound.
Exactly. Which is based off of Dragon Quest, so if you want to go back that far. So, anyway, I am super excited to get a shot of playing this game. I want to play a big, long RPG on the Switch just because it's more comfortable for me. So I'm sure it'll be good. It's not a graphically intensive game, so I think it'll run well. Moving on from this is actually a pretty big news for people that are interested in visual novels. Clannad, I think. Clannad.
The world's saddest is a romantic RPG.
Yeah, it's a visual novel that apparently was the biggest visual novel in Japan at the time of its release. It's considered has some of the best writing of a visual novel. It is more on the dating side in terms of visual novels. It's not like Steins Gate or Snatcher where it's like a mystery or something like that. This is more like slice of life / dating sim, but it's supposed to be if you're gonna play one, it's gonna be this one. It apparently has some really good dramatic moments in it that are really satisfying in terms of storytelling moments. It's been on PC for a long time, but it's getting a Switch release along with a physical release. So visual novel fans should definitely make note of this one because it's not to be missed. My good friend of the show, Retro Gamer, loves this game and really goes to bat for it. So it's not just one of those tropey games that it seems like every other one. It's supposed to be an exceptional game of its type. So I've never played it, so I reserve judgment. But from everybody who's into this kind of thing, really loves it.
I'm not a big not a big romantic person.
Me either.
Well, to each to its own.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Vice, you love romantic visual novels. You played Doki Doki with me. It was great.
that was a subversion.
That was absolute. Speaking of which, Vice, I know you hate the magical girl thing, but we've talked about this before. Madoka Magica
sure.
is a subversion.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
You should give that a shot.
I knew that.
I know, like, you can't stand the aesthetic, but you should actually give that a shot.
No, if I'm gonna watch anything from that genre, it's going to be a subversion. So, I would watch that.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of magical girl, like Sailor Moon. It's like
I like Sailor Moon.
Season 1 is the girliest shit you ever saw, but like when it gets like a real overarching story, like it definitely changes tone. But Madoka, shit gets real almost immediately.
Well, it's not really based off of the Sailor Moon kind of thing. It's more based off of Cardcaptor Sakura.
What, Madoka?
Yeah.
Well, the aesthetic, but the plot and story beats are Kamen Rider Ryuki.
Oh,
like,
really?
Like to the point where if you've watched Kamen Rider Ryuki, you can predict certain things that happen. It's like if you've played System Shock 2, you can predict what happens in BioShock. It's like that.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know Kamen Rider Ryuki, sadly.
Well,
yeah, I need to watch that.
If you know Madoka, like I know this sounds like the kind of joke I would make, but if you know Madoka, then you do know Kamen Rider Ryuki.
Gotcha. I need to check both of those things out. I would rather watch Kamen Rider, to be honest, but
it's different in that regard. Like a lot of punching and kicking, where Madoka is magic, but like
it's the aesthetic. I like the aesthetic better.
Well, yeah, I mean, Kamen Rider can get dark depending on the series you're watching, but like Magical Girls, like this was like weird for a Magical Girl show, which is why it's interesting.
Actually, it's kind of become a trope lately that magical girl shows must become dark like hell.
Yeah, but Madoka was like interesting for doing that because that wasn't expected. Like maybe in later seasons, like now there's stuff out to dominate the world or whatever. But Madoka, like shit can get real.
Yeah. Well, moving on from that, another Switch physical edition was announced. The Sexy Brutale by Super Rare Games.
That sounds nice.
So Sexy Brutale was
exclusively releases Switch physicals.
Yeah. Super Rare has only done Switch games. You're right, but I
got one of their releases. It was that God damn it! It was one of that game that's based on like the choose your own adventure like fantasy RPG books where you flip the pages.
Fighting Fantasy,
something like that. Yeah, it wasn't. The game wasn't called that, but it was like
this is a Steve Jackson game.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, this is really cool because this has cards of all of the guests at the Sexy Brutale. So the physical edition is really neat. It also comes with playing cards, which factors into the story.
You can actually buy the cards separately too.
Yeah. This is really cool, and apparently, when I played this, if you had remembered our conversations about it, I liked everything about it, but the way that it performed on the Switch,
there was rate issues.
Yeah, there was a frame rate issue, especially in the foyer. Or the and that was like the main place where you pass through because there's a lot of lighting effects going on there.
Yeah.
Apparently they had a recent patch that fixed all of that.
I was gonna bring that up. No, that's really nice because really that game. I mean, I know the Switch isn't a PS4, but like a game like the Sexy Brutale should have no problem running on
That's
the Switch.
why I didn't even check before I bought it.
Yeah.
That was a little bit odd.
Yeah.
But also, I have to finish that game one day.
It's amazing.
You do. It's great.
Yeah, I actually beat this one, and it is very similar to Majora's Mask in the kind of clockwork.
Yeah, keep resetting and try solving some different problem.
I keep saying that it kind of reminds me of what was that game? Neighbors from Hell.
Oh, I don't know
that. I wouldn't know.
If I allow to, it was it was a kind of a fun game where you enter this couch potato neighbor's house and you do various pranks on him. And basically the whole premise is that he has a daily routine, and you have to place various kind of pranks in his daily routine.
Okay.
And it's kind of remind me because even if you are not there is a singular event, it loops like in Neighbors from Hell, and the whole thing that you have to avoid people and you have to find items and place them in specific order is kind of remind me of Neighbors from Hell.
Yeah, that sounds close. Yeah.
Well, I really love this game, and I really implore anybody who this has a really good storytelling method.
Amazing soundtrack.
Amazing soundtrack, great gameplay, all around really fun game. And the new patch is going to, they confirmed is going to be on the cartridge, shipping out, so you won't even need to update it.
By the way, speaking of, this is going back a little bit, you mentioned the playing cards. I should mention, or the trading cards. Speaking of cards, there are playing cards. Just like Deca 52.
Oh, you could buy those too. That comes as part of the limited edition, the playing cards.
I would more.
What, literally
more
just
like,
a deck of cards, like clubs, hearts, spades, and...
Yep.
Huh. Mm-hmm. But what I was going to say is that in the game, there are playing cards you could find, and if you get all of them, then you could find... then you can get like a different ending. Keep in mind, unless there's been a recent patch or something, the game does not keep track of this shit. Like, I mean, once you've gotten a card, you have it. But there's no way to look up what cards you currently have. So if you lose track, then you're going to have to, like, just go through all of them. Like, where's
with
the
a
last card?
spoiler-free guide, for sure.
Or at the very least, just write down the cards you have.
Yeah.
Like, because I was missing, like, 2 cards or something. I'm like, which ones? Oh, God, I don't know. And I had to go through all the steps. It was awful.
I was missing one, and luckily it was in the first area in the casino.
the one I was missing was in the fireplace, because
Yep.
you can't just check it all the time, because later in the day they light the fire. So
Yeah,
the card's gone.
that was the one I was missing.
Yeah, I was like, oh, man. Like, so that was tricky.
Yeah, but I had been looking dutifully later on in the game, so I didn't miss any later on.
Yeah.
But this is a great game. Do not miss out on it. It is a good game to have a physical copy of, I would say, too. Moving on from that...
get the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I should mention, because it's been physical on PS4 already, even that, the retail version just had the soundtrack. It was pretty nice. Mm-hmm. Although, ironically, it didn't have the full song that plays over the course of the entire day, like the 7 or 9 minute song or whatever. I was really hoping for that one. But still, the rest of the soundtrack's still damn good.
Moving on from that, this is another visual novel thing. Actually, I think this is considered a sound novel. Higurashi, When They Cry, How, which is chapter 8 of Higurashi, When They Cry, was finally released this week.
Yeah, I'm going to pick that up. Those are like some of the most pure visual novels in that there is like no player
input. Choices.
Like you read it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like experiencing a TV show or a book read out loud.
It's like an audio CD, like
exactly.
A drama CD. Yeah.
But it is apparently like one of the best. It's really good, and this is the final chapter. This is the final chapter of the original run.
Okay.
So this. If you had bought it before, if you had bought it like the bundle before, of course that would be updated for you by now. But now is the time to buy this game if you have never bought it before.
I've been holding out because I knew it wasn't finished. That's great.
Yeah, I think it's like 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years in the making of. This is like the remade version of Higurashi When They Cry. Yeah. Apparently, the original was very like indie, meaning like the drawings aren't as
the look
refined.
Is very different. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like Corpse Party. If you look at original Corpse Party, it's like, well, okay. Yeah.
It's very amateurish. This is a much higher budget, and obviously the people that made it are older and are better at what they do now. This is one of the games to buy if you're into visual novels. It's like a murder mystery kind of thing too. If you're wondering what the title means, When They Cry means actually like it's not a literal translation of the Japanese title. The Japanese title is When Cicadas Cry.
Oh.
So it
evening cicadas.
Yeah, it kind of has that like loneliness, like feeling that like Evangelion is known for with the cicadas.
Yep.
So definitely pick this up. It's on Steam, and I think Manga Gamer is selling it outside of that. So really good stuff. And it also has like a ton of other media released on that.
Yeah, I knew
afterwards.
It was an anime series.
Well, not only that, but there's a bunch of sequel games that have been being released. They get released in question and answer arcs.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So this would be, of course, be a question arc, and then like the themes get answered in the answer arc afterwards.
Hey, you know what? You know what's a nice segue with that? They also did a question and answer kind of arc of Danganronpa before the third game came out, didn't they?
Yes. So Danganronpa has announced that they will be making a bunch of announcements in May. So it's an announcement for a bunch of announcements, but this is a big deal considering this is a big franchise now. Like it basically made Spike Chunsoft its own publisher in America when it was not before. Spike Chunsoft had to rely on other publishers before, Nippon Ichi Software mostly. And so like Spike Chunsoft is like a big deal. They're like the original makers of Dragon Quest. So like they made the first 4 Dragon Quest games, something like that, first 5. I forget the current company that makes it, but don't say Enix because they have never made it. Like Enix was always a publishing company. So like even now, Dragon Quest XI is not made by Square. They've been putting out great visual novels, like fantastic visual novels, in the last like five years or so. And everything that they release is like top notch. They have AI Somnium Files. What was the Labyrinth game before that? What was that called? I forget.
Labyrinth?
Yeah, that game with the the kids go through an entire lifetime in a day.
Oh, geez, yes. Okay, that Zanki Zero.
Zanki Zero, yeah, that's correct. They also are the makers of what
428, right?
428 as well, and the Nonary games.
Yes.
So they are the like masters. Like all their games are great. So I can't wait to see what they want to do in the Danganronpa franchise. I, of course, am stuck on, that stupid side game, Despair Girls. I'm stuck on that game before I get to Danganronpa 3 and V3. But I'm still looking forward to whatever they have to say. Apparently, this is happening. There is a 10th anniversary happening on November 25th because you have to remember that the original 2 games were released on PSP before they were ever remade for Vita when we got them. And that's when we first got them, at least. So they will hold a series of video segments each month online. The date for May 2020 will be revealed at the Famitsu and Dengeki Game Awards. So as of the 18th, they will release what day they will be talking about stuff. So there is no further, details on the announcement, obviously, because it is an announcement. So it may be that they are remaking the whole first game in VR because they did that demo in VR that's free for PlayStation 4 users. I wouldn't doubt that, but maybe that's only one thing that they're doing, So I don't know what else they could release. Maybe a side game or maybe even a 4th game. Who the hell knows? But maybe even a different type of game because like how many games can you do this kind of conceit with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm confident that they'll release something cool either way. Moving on from that, I just wanted to go over a quick Arcade Archives release. This was a Taito game called The Tin Star. I thought that this was particularly notable. You guys should check out the Tin Star because it's not like the Super Nintendo Tin Star game that you're probably thinking of. This is kind of like a predecessor to Wild Guns almost. It's actually kind of cool. You can kind of see where the idea for Wild Guns came. It's like a combination. It's like even before Cabal was released. It has kind of like a platformer and shooting gallery aspect to it. So it's pretty neat. And this kind of game gets very little love otherwise. So I just wanted to do a shout out to that.
It
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
In Commodore 64 there was a few cowboy games like High Noon and Cactus Jack.
Oh, I'm sure even some of them, maybe even one of those is either like a rip off of it or whatever, because that happened a lot on Commodore. Moving on from that, some Dreamcast, hot Dreamcast news came out here. So apparently there's a Segagaga open source translation project, which I thought was pretty neat. So Segagaga is like one of the very last Dreamcast games released in Japan and never got a U.S. release. But
I think it's spelled Segagaga.
Yeah, Segagaga.
Was that the game that was like about being a game dev, like for Sega?
Correct. It was a game that Sega made about their own demise at the time. They had the balls to release an entire game, like that praised their company but also made fun of it as it was dying. So like it has like all kinds of stuff, like talking about how like the company's in trouble and like you have to save the company from like going bankrupt. And of course that was happening at the time. So it has like a whole bunch of Sega love. It even has like a cameo from Alex Kidd, bemoaning the fact that he used to be the company's mascot before Sonic took over. And it's kind of funny, but this game has never gotten any love in terms of like the fan translation community, and it's a shame too, because like this would be like a prime candidate for a game like to get a fan translation. Like it has everything that would like a Sega fan would want. It's also like an RPG and it has a sense of humor. So I am very much looking forward to this. And it's open source, so that's great. It's not like a fan translation project at this point where you could play it. There's like a walkthrough that you can use, and there's also somebody has been uploading videos of the cutscenes with English translation running underneath it, so you could watch the scenes and follow what's going on. So at least you have that. You have like a guide and a way of getting through it, if not a way to play the actual game in English. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, kind of in the same breath, a copy of Heroes of Might and Magic was found for the Dreamcast, a game that was never released, and apparently pretty much complete. If not for like some testing and stuff. So basically the whole game's in there. Like somebody did like a GoFundMe and got it got it released to the internet. So you can go ahead and play Heroes of Might and Magic for the Dreamcast, which is kind of cool. And some old stuff from this time period. Homestar Runner out of nowhere released a 3-album soundtrack.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Based off of all of the stupid songs that they have in the background of their cartoons. It's not like their most popular songs, like the Strong Bad Techno and all that has already been released on like a Strong Bad like soundtrack, but it's just kind of fun. I just wanted to mention that. And we had kind of hinted about this last week, but Gorillaz released a third song as part of their Song Machine releases. This one's called Aries. Did you get a chance to listen to it, Lotus?
Yes.
What'd you think of it?
I mean, I quite liked it. I mean, it's always difficult for me to really evaluate a song like when I hear it once for the first time, but I mean, sure. I enjoyed it and the video was fun. Like, that's standard fare for the Gorillaz.
I thought it probably had the best video.
It was a damn good video
of the three, because it focused on the characters.
Yeah, the previous video, I never remember what it was called. It was the French one.
Désolé.
There we go. It was mainly just like the singers like
Damon
live like on a boat, and they would kind of like put 2D like on it for a second or whatever. But this was like a whole actual focus on the Gorillaz themselves, or the like music video.
Yeah, Song Machine has been kind of interesting in terms of Gorillaz because like Damon Albarn has actually been in the videos. He's always been, he's the main force in the music videos, but he's never been in the music videos or any of the Gorillaz media up until Song Machine.
Well, media. I mean, if you want to count this, it was of course in the movie.
Well, yeah, he's in the.
But that barely counts. The entire movie
Yeah.
was like one of those behind the scenes scenes you might see in a special, except it was
Sure.
the entire movie. It was like 90 minutes of that.
Yeah, and like he's of course been in like the concert stuff because he has to
yeah,
perform it. Yeah,
that goes without saying. Yeah.
but like David Albarn is also well known outside of the Gorillaz. He's the lead singer of Blur, which was a huge British pop act from the early 2000s or late 90s. I'm sorry, around the same time as Oasis, right?
Like Blur was in one of the FIFA games.
One of the what?
Like one of the old soccer games, FIFA.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
Song 2
Song
is a hugely popular song even still. It was most well known for being in the trailer for Starship Troopers at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because they made that song to make fun of pop songs.
Well, that's perfect, because Starship Troopers makes fun of, its genre as well.
Yeah, but it unironically, I guess, unexpectedly became their most popular hit.
Well, wasn't that like the Beastie Boys, like we gotta fight for our right to party? Like that was like a satirical song that people took seriously.
Exactly.
Happens.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it happens, but
Especially if it's a catchy.
Yes.
yeah, that just like that.
And same goes with Gangnam Style. That whole song was like shitting on. It was like a social commentary song, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's the best."
But Gorillaz is great. I thought that Aries was really neat because it was kind of like a throwback to The Cure. It sounded like a Cure song. So like it had a very it just sounded like a Cure song. So like if you're a Cure fan or a Gorillaz fan, definitely go to it because every Gorillaz song is something different. So
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're a Gorillaz fan, then see what you think of this next one. Just like every other Gorillaz song ever made.
Yeah,
Maybe, I wonder what
exactly.
genre this one is.
yeah, I mean sometimes Gorillaz is very
Pop
weird.
punk,
So like
I would call it.
Yeah.
So your palate might not be able to handle it the first time you listen to it, but then like upon secondary listens, you're like, oh man, this is actually really great. But Aries is very likable, I think. So, Gorillaz is every genre. You can't really call them anything.
I wouldn't call it every genre because I could show you music that they definitely isn't.
That's true.
Yeah, it's more like a fusion of all different pop, different kinds of pop, including crossover pop. Like, there's even some reggae songs. There's
Plastic Beach had what was it, White Flag?
There's all kinds of they have a whole reggae album, the Space Monkeys album.
Okay.
Like they have a lot of it's electronic, a lot of it's rap, a lot of it's hip hop. It's just everything. It's hard. Some of it's symphonic. It's hard to pin down, but it's all great. So in my opinion, but is that it for this week, guys? Do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up while we still have the floor?
Yeah, one thing real quick. I brought this up
Please.
last week, but this is a reminder. The coronavirus, like GDQ thing, I forgot what it was called, like the Cure Done Quick or Coronavirus Done Quick, something like that. But the speedrunning to raise money for dealing with the coronavirus is happening from the 17th through the 19th, which means Friday through Sunday. So get ready for that.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely. At least give it some attention if you can't donate towards it, because of course this is an amazing cause, and any bit of help for this kind of thing, definitely champion it. Definitely do your part and help out for it, because these are tough times for a lot of people. So. any bit of help is going to be helping people.
As Tesco says, every little bit helps.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
How about you, Dracologist? Do you have any last-minute items?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, that is the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. And you know what? If you could throw us up on your favorite social media of choice, or give us a retweet, or even plug us on Reddit or anything like that. Anytime anybody asks you for your
keep calling your local radio station.
Yeah, call us in. You know what? Local radio would be a good
What do you
place
want us to play? I'll play this hour and 10-minute podcast.
I mean, there are tens of AM radio stations that I'm sure that we could be on that are more popular than the actual AM radio. So, well, I can tell you some people who listen to our podcast. I can't tell you anybody who listens to AM radio.
Ouch.
Well, it's true. But give your favorite podcast a little attention, and I don't mean Lotus's. I mean.
Yeah.
You can catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. We have a nice update on what's going on in our lives on the next show on Thursday. Finally, you can find me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, just started 2 new games, one just yesterday and the other last week.
Oh, what are you playing?
Well, what at the time of this recording is coming up tomorrow, but at the time of this listening happened last night. Echo Knight, another FromSoft game, baby.
Hell yeah.
Echo Knight. And then on Wednesdays I'm doing Typo Man.
Oh, I heard that's great.
It's so far not bad. Anyway, so getting on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, one of which I'm currently recording, and getting in discussions with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon accounts, which can be found at patreon.com/lotusprince.
And you can find me on Discord and Skype and Steam under the name Dracologist.
Excellent. Well, we'll catch everybody on Thursday. See you then.
Until next time, everyone.
Good evening.